everybody, welcome to this video about how to multiply negative numbers. So I believe that everything in life, including math, is a lot easier when we love ourselves. And one of the ways I like to give myself some love is to move my body, especially if I've been sitting down for a long time. So today I'd like to encourage you to stand up, maybe stretch, maybe do a little bit of yoga, but move your body in a way that really feels good. So take 2 deep breaths. Give yourself some love, and let's make this math easy. Okay, so when you're multiplying negative numbers, the first thing that you do is you just multiply the numbers together, kind of ignoring whether they're positive or negative. Technically, that's called multiplying the absolute values of the numbers, but you multiply the two numbers together, and then you get your answer. And then the way you determine whether your answer should be positive or negative is based on whether the signs are the same or different for the two factors that you multiplied together. So, for example, if you have a positive 6 times a positive 9, the signs are the same, and so that means that your answer is a positive 54. If you have negative 4 times a positive 8, the signs are different, so the answer is negative 32. And then if you have a positive 12 times a negative 3, again, the signs are different, and so you get a negative 36. And if you do negative 3 times negative 7, that means that you're going to have a positive 21 because the signs are the same. Now that last one, sometimes people will get a little bit confused with because they're like, wait, how does a negative times a negative end up equaling a positive number? So I'm going to show you how that works, but I'm going to lead up to it by showing you the other examples and why they work. So if you have 6 times 9, what that means is that you have 9 groups of 6. So if you have 9 groups of positive 6, that means you have 6 positives within every group. And the number of groups is also positive. And so that means that you're going to have a positive 54 as your answer. If you have negative 4 times 8, that means that you have 8 groups, and each group has 4 negatives, which means that you're going to have a total of 32 negatives. Which is why negative 4 times the positive 8 equals a negative 32. Now if you have a 12 times a negative 3, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, because if you have a negative 3 number of groups, that means that you have 3 groups, but they're opposite groups. So if you have a group of 12 and then you do the opposite of that, that means that you're going to have 12 negatives in that group. Because the opposite of 12 positives is 12 negatives. So when you multiply 12 by negative 3, you're going to have 3 groups of 12, but they're going to be the opposite of the positives instead of just the positive 12. So all of those are going to be negatives, which is why 12 times negative 3 equals 36. And this is also the reason why a negative 3 times a negative 7 is going to be 21, and it's going to be positive, because if you have negative 7 groups, that means you're going to have 7 groups, but they're going to be the opposite of the things that are inside of the groups. So instead of having 3 negatives, you're going to have the opposite of those, which are 3 positives, and you have 7 of those groups, which means that you're going to have a total of 21. These positives take a minute to write, so give me just a minute. There we go. So you end up having 21 positives. And so when you have more complicated problems, like for example, multiplying negative decimals, the pattern you still follow the same pattern. So you'd say, okay, if I have a positive times a negative, that's going to give me a negative answer. And then you just multiply the two numbers to find out what that negative number will be. So I say, okay, 6.5 times 3.8. You don't have to line up the decimals for decimal multiplication, but in this case, they naturally did. So I would say 5 times 8 is 40. Carry the 4. 6 times 8 is 48. Plus 4 is 52. And then put a little placeholder. And 5 times 3 is 15, carry the 1. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. And when I add these together, I get 0, 7, 14, carry the 1, 2. I get 2, 4, 7, 0. And then I'm going to go in and count my decimal places. And I have 2 decimal places, so I'll move the decimal over twice. And I get my answer of negative 24.70, which seems like a reasonable number because 6 times 3 would be about 18, and if I did 7 times 4, that would be about 28, and this number is in between those two numbers. So that's how I would multiply negative decimals. If I was multiplying negative fractions, I'd go through the same process and I'd say, okay, are they the same signs or different? In this case, I have a negative times a negative, which means that my answer is going to be a positive, and the number is going to be determined by multiplying the two fractions using the rules for multiplying fractions. So I'd go 4 times 3 is 12, 5 times 8 is 40, and so I'd get 12 40ths, and it's going to be a positive 12 40ths because my two factors were negative. And you can use this even if you have really advanced algebra problems like this, because you could say, all right, well, if I have a negative 4 times a negative 5, that's a positive 20, and then x times x squared would be x cubed, and this would be the simplified version of this algebra expression. And if you want to learn more about that, you can watch my videos about polynomials. But basically the idea is that whenever you have a negative times a negative, it equals a positive. And obviously a positive times a positive also equals positive. But if you have opposite signs, like a negative times a positive, then the answer will be negative. And that's how you multiply negative numbers.
I hope this video was helpful. Let me know how easy this was for you by typing a number in the comments below, and then subscribe for more easy math videos. You may also want to check out my negative numbers playlist, or if you'd like more help with multiplying negative numbers, you can go to mathtutoringonline.com to ask a question or book a one-on-one tutoring session. See you soon!